I hate the answer of like, hey, why are we doing this? And the answer is because that's how we always have done it. Like, I hate that. I hate that answer. Like, give me the reason why we're doing it. We're doing it because this, that, and the other, and this is the pressure, and this is, the way we're trying to attack this defense. Not, oh, well, that's just how we did it, 10 years ago with X, Y, and Z. It's like, no, like, well, then why'd you do it then? I want to know the why, and I want to know the reason.
It's the Afterglow. I'm Yogi Roth. That is Rhett Lewis. You just heard from Jared Goff. Big love to our founding sponsor, 76, keeping you on the go, 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 so you never miss a beat. Rhett, Jared Goff, let's just dive into our reflection on that conversation. This is a young man I've known since he was 16. Met him at the Elite 11. It was the Christian Hackenberg class and Luke Del Rio, who's been on this podcast class. I mean, it was the who's who. Yeah. Jared Goff was the tall, skinny guy who could just spin it a little different. Started as a freshman, goes 1-11 at Cal, number one pick in the National Football League, takes him to Super Bowl, gets traded, gets dumped, and now he's rebuilt, I'd argue, like the space between his ears. Yeah, and also how he views the game. I thought this was really cool hearing his process.
By the way, he is a unbiased fan of the process. He went back and listened to the Peyton Manning episode and took some things. I think he's going to go back and listen to the Lanning episode now. That was one of my big takeaways, right? I might have a little project over the bye week to go back and write down some self-reflections. So we appreciate you, Jared, for your support. But a couple of things that I really appreciated from Jared. I want to start with one of the questions you asked him about having his dad as a professional athlete with influence on, his athletic career. I thought something he said was really important. And it was that recognition. It was that moment where his dad was like, look, you're still juggling, baseball and football. Like, if you want to be great at one of these things, it's going to take a special level of commitment that you've yet to really, decide you want to go forward with. And I don't think that's, we have the discussion all the time about sports specialization. I don't think that's what that discussion was. The discussion there was, okay, we've identified that you're pretty dang good at a couple of things here. But if you want to take the next step, you've got to unlock something in yourself that's going to require real sacrifice. That's going to require a new level of dedication and commitment that some of your friends might not be ready for. And that's going to be hard. And a recognition of that, I think is just so big for someone, that's trying to use their process to find success, right? Whether that's in sports or business. Like, all right, I've identified, look, that I can sell houses. I'm a pretty good real estate agent, but like, do I want to be the best? Can I unlock something in myself that I've yet to really show that will take me to the next level and really commit to that? Because that sounds like that's what Jared Goff did, yo.
Yeah, it reminds me of a few things, but one is kind of came across this through the research of interviewing coaches and players. Yeah. You and I have done this for a long time as broadcasters. We'll be back on the call this weekend, Michigan State, Minnesota on Big Ten Network. The best in the world have clarity around the things that matter most. Yeah, they're confident when they state that is the thing. And then the hardest part is the discipline. And that's what I heard from him of like, dad posing question, is it real? Like, is your confidence real? Like, is this the thing that matters most? Yeah, it is, Dad. Okay, cool. Then like, what's the discipline? And I kept flashing back even in our conversation to that viral Tom Brady speech at his Patriots Hall of Fame induction. He's like, you don't want to eat pancakes. You don't want to go to the beach with your friends. Like, Jared had a version of that. And when you get to watch him, you see a guy who's like California cool, super likable. But when you get to know him, he's got a competitive demeanor that is next level around like, I don't want to say it's chip on the shoulder, but he's got a fire within him. And I think what really turned for him was when he went and had to play the Rams in the playoffs. You asked him that question as well. And it went from being like, I want to beat them because that side said I'm not good enough to I'm just going to play for that guy and that side that loves me. And I think there's something there of like proving yourself right. And Jared is like in a complete microscope. And to do that on the stage he's done, I think for all the young quarterbacks and even coaches who've been fired or try to prove that they still have it, like, don't make it about that. Like, of course, that's going to be a part of your motivation and drive, but it can't be the engine. It could just be one of the levers.
Good point. And also along those lines, one of the other things I took away from it actually happened in our little mini Afterglow with Jared, as we were thanking him for coming on. And, he was like, boy, when you asked about, when he started talking about the fans, because that was part of that whole narrative around that playoff game, right? It was like, I'm not doing it to beat the Rams. I'm doing it because I want to bring a Super Bowl to Detroit for these fans who are amazing. And then, I was like, so is that kind of heavy? Understanding the weight of that, right? And well, yeah, actually kind of is, when you think about it, which kind of, led me to believe like that's something within our own process here that's like an additive to the Dan Lanning self-reflections from a couple episodes ago. Maybe you need somebody just to ask you, how are you dealing with this, man?
Dude, it's a great point. And I also think this, like we see this in college football. I don't know where you net out of because we haven't had this conversation.
Yeah.
I think where I net out based on my commentary right now of like the organizations that think the quarterback needs to be more than 1/11th, I don't think can find consistent, sustained success.
Agreed.
And I know this for Jared when we went to Detroit, their head coach said, you just got to be the quarterback. You just got to be the one of the 11th. And for him, that was an unlock. And he alluded to that to a degree of like, there's naturally more pressure on this position because of the praise and the blame and all the things that go around the quarterback. And I'm wondering like where you net out on that because the quarterback has to do more. You touch the ball more. Percentage of if you win or lose is within your decision, within your hands, literally every snap or majority of snaps. But I don't think it's healthy for that position to think that they have to be 2/11ths or 5/11ths of what success is.
I think there's an understanding within the best quarterbacks that they have to be 100% of the 1/11th, right? For their team to have success. You know what I mean? Like you can't be 50% of your 1/11th, right? Which is what, 120? I don't know. I'm bad at math. Yeah. Let's leave that one alone. But I think there's an understanding that yes, okay, I am a central feature of this offense. But if the other 10 pieces aren't swimming in the direction that I'm leading them, we're in trouble. And at the same time, if I am not playing to my, ultimate level of success, sure, maybe we might find a way, but I know we're going to win if I am inspiring the other 10/11ths and if I am at a 100% of my 1/11th. So like, don't be 50% of your 1/11th. Be 100% of your 1/11th. And I think that is how you understand the mentality, right, of the unit aspect of an offense, but then also the responsibility of what it means to be the quarterback.
You might know this answer, but if you don't, make it personal about you. Because last time we were on together, you shared something very personal, which is you and your incredible wife are expecting a new baby within the next month or so.
Yeah.
Wrote about it at whyoption.com. I got a lot of really cool feedback where people didn't really know. Like even some of our bosses at Big Ten Network, like, dude, I had to read your article. I didn't even know, Rhett was expecting a baby. Jared just had a baby. They teased it at the end of the quarterback doc series on Netflix, which my son and I are old as saying we watched it. Right, it's awesome. Like Jared's part, just because you love him, it's awesome. Yeah. But having a child, I wonder if there's a stat out there for quarterbacks. Like once you become a dad, like where does your discernment go? Where's your completion percentage? Like, does it change it at all? And then I want to ask you, like, you're about to enter welcome number 3.
Yeah.
But did you feel as a professional in your process, like what changed after 1? Because this is his first.
Right. That's a good question. We had our second so quickly. It was almost like, you know what I mean?
Blackout.
Like, I don't even know. I don't remember. And that is one thing I'm kind of looking forward to. But the third is like, it's hard for me to remember Wilder, our second baby, as a baby because we were just in it. 2 kids in 19 months, and you got a toddler that's running around like crazy, and then you're trying to deal with this little beautiful thing, and so kind of excited to get back into baby land for a minute. But as far as like the mentality goes, I think it just you really understand now what matters and how to get there. And how to get there most efficiently, right? That because our time is at a premium as it is right now, and so then to add in, the time it takes to raise another baby, and look, obviously, my wife is going to be, a lot's going to be on her shoulders as it usually is, and our wives and mothers are super human and super women, but I think for a first time dad, and for somebody that's maybe even new in marriage. I remember listening to Josh Allen talk about this. He's like, I've never felt more at ease, right? I've never felt more at ease in my professional life because I know that when I come home, I've got this support system. And it may be a little bit of chaos here and there, but I know that there are people here that rely on me and that I can then rely on to fill my cup. And I think that's probably something that Jared can really relate to now. Like, come home after a bad day at work and dang, man, this little one can fill me right back up. And then you're ready for the next day in such a different headspace.
Yeah, I think that's the point. I think to your point of being efficient, we've all felt that when a new person enters your life, like you just don't have the amount of time. Quarterback is already, you have to be extremely efficient. Offensive coordinators are efficient. Like, you're maximizing every second of every day. That's kind of what coaching and playing that position is. But to your point of like the flush mechanism, I would imagine Jared's really good at it already.
Yeah.
And they don't have a lot of bad games, but to your point, good, bad, and different, you come home and that little one could care less. They just want 100% focus. I think that having a child helps you strengthen that focus muscle. I think your conversations are more intentional because you know and you see the impact of staring at your new baby's eyes. Like, I just think there's a part there that, you know, I wasn't great at. But I look back on it. That's I only give new dads one piece of advice, which is like, when you kick into fight or flight mode because you're like, I got to go earn, I've got to go be that guy right now, because that's what I think like happens to the DNA of men. Like, something new enters the world and it's like, I got to go hunt and gather. Yeah. And I believe that to be true. I felt that, at least. And I think there's the other side of like, you also need to go, like, in the 20 minutes that he or she are awake, be so connected to the oohs and the ahs and the giggles. And because you can't get it, to your point, like, to get it back, you do anything. So there's our fathership conversation for the day. Hey, let's talk about a grandfather, maybe. Kurt Signetti, he just signed a huge deal. We got a couple other things going on in college football, right? We got Brian Kelly. He gets ousted. What is happening with all these buyouts? 50 plus million. James Franklin, we've talked to that before. He's out. Florida out. I mean, they are huge jobs. The UCLA job, let alone, like, of all those jobs, who's got the best path to the playoff? I might say like Oregon State as an opening, because the Pac-12 next year will be a full conference and the group of five gets an AQ and it might be the best group of five league. So I just say all that. Like, I'm kind of curious where you net out of another weekend where a Sunday happens and there's a firing where we sit early in the week.
Well, look, I think, you're kind of past the point of beware, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. I think we're kind of past that point in a number of these places, as you mentioned, with all the openings that's out there, all the buyout money that's out there. Gosh, you know what struck me, especially after Brian Kelly here this week, is let's go back a couple of years, right? That offseason really was a firecracker for high-profile coaches leaving high-profile jobs for other high-profile jobs, right? It was Lincoln Riley leaving Oklahoma to go to USC. That same year, it was Brian Kelly leaving Notre Dame to go to LSU. It was James Franklin getting a massive contract extension. It was Mel Tucker getting a massive contract extension from Michigan State. How many of those guys still have jobs?
Yeah.
One. Lincoln Riley. And you could argue that there have been some real struggles there, right? And still trying to find their way now into year 4 with Lincoln. So, man, like, again, just buyer beware of, I don't want to say this the wrong way of, like, I think there are two schools of thought when you're hiring a head coach. Like, obviously you want to go get the best guy possible, but you want to win public opinion too, right? And I think that's something that can get lost in this here a little bit, especially with so many high profile openings now. There's not enough high profile head coaches, like celebrity head coaches, to fill all these jobs anymore. So who's the fan base that's going to be okay with the rising star like Dan Lanning was, right? Which athletic director is going to go find the stud coordinator with major head coach, potential, and sell that in a way that a fan base can really wrap their arms around and give some patience to, and then can bring in the dollars that it needs to sustain a high profile program like we're talking about there, as opposed to then just trying to go off the top ropes and, I don't know, bring Urban Meyer back, or, like all those kind of crazy scenarios. So I think that this is the power of ADs, I think, is really going to come to bear here in the next couple of weeks as these jobs are filled, man. Who can really shut it out and concentrate on, like Scott Dolson did with Kurt Signetti, the things that have made this program successful in the past, and how do we build on it?
I was just going to go to Signetti. No surprise that you did. Go Hoosiers, by the way.
Yeah. Hey.
Dominant win over the weekend, by the way. Dominant from the second snap on. I mean, it was, whoa. Indiana, for those that think it's a flash in the pan, like turn it on.
It
Just
ain't.
watch it. No audio. Just watch it.
Yeah.
Not or just subscribe to Rhett's
Big red carpet.
podcast. The Big Red Carpet, and away we go. To that point, if you said to any of those schools that are no longer have a head coach, LSU, Penn State, let's throw Florida in the mix, Curt Cignetti is your head coach today, 3 for 3. If you said when either they extended or hired their most recent head coach, you're hiring Curt Cignetti, it would have been a riot. Like, remember what happened when Mike Kentucky head coach, Coach Stoops?
Yeah.
Right? Coach Stoops gets rumored to be A&M.
Yeah.
A&M Twitter goes crazy.
Yeah.
He doesn't end up. Who knows what the truth is, right? But I'm just saying, like, same thing happened to Tennessee at different times. Like, we've seen this happen. And you're right. To be an AD, it's a challenging spot right now because is there a great group of 5 head coach? Sure is.
Eric Morris?
Is there
Alex Galesh?
Is there a long-time assistant coach coordinator who's more than capable but not sexy? Yes, I go back. And Scott Woodward was the AD at Washington. The way that I know this story is he gets Chris Peterson to become the head coach. If he doesn't take the job, he's going to hire a guy you know well, and I know well, Doug Nussmeier at Washington. He was the offensive coordinator at the time with Steve Sarkisian. Doug was a hot name. Well, Doug hasn't been a head coach. He's been a coordinator at Bama and Florida and Michigan and now in the NFL for many years since, a decade plus since. But is he going to get a sniff at these jobs? More than qualified. But my point is that, like, to winning the whatever, social media, press conference, recruiting class, current roster, like, there's all of these things that have to be navigated. And the truth is, the data would tell you most of these jobs don't work out. Name the coaches that have retired on their own.
Look what I mean, Nick Saban.
Okay, I'm waiting. Who else? Exactly. Like to your point, like it often doesn't work. And I just say all that. And here's my last point. And I've been thinking about this the last couple of days. Well, 2. 1, who is the Dan Lanning out there? Who's that assistant that is gonna be the next rock star? That is the question every day AD is trying to figure out, and then we'll have to sell. 2, name a head coach currently that is elite at being a head coach and managing multimillionaires in college. And I'll wait. That's why I think, like, there's a world for ADs where it's like, do you give people time? And I think every situation's different. Like Brian Kelly and James Franklin, totally different situations. But the point is, like, when coaches don't do well at managing a roster full of millionaires, is it on them? Yes. Is it their fault? No, they weren't trained that way. They didn't come up through the ranks of the NFL. So I think it's just a data point that doesn't get any dialogue.
Yeah. And I think the world, the patience is an interesting one too, because Brian Kelly was well established, right?
Oh yeah.
More than a decade at Notre Dame, been in the college football playoff. I think with that, going to LSU in one of the most fertile recruiting grounds in America, with resources, although that they were maybe lagging a little bit in terms of blue blood resources. You know, when he got there, he did, credit to him, donated $1 million of his own money to kind of get the thing started. But I think you have less patience with a person like that in a job like that because he is established as a, you know, kind of quote unquote rock star coach, right? He should be able to come in a relatively short order. He should have LSU competing for national championships every year. Wasn't the case in any year, really, even with the Heisman Trophy winner, Jaden Daniels. So I think with that, then with the young coordinator or the unsung hero coordinator, I think that person deserves more patience, right? If that makes sense, than like an established head coach with a pedigree and a resume, because they should be out there. That should be something that turns quick because they've been there and they've done that and they've got the resources to do it.
Yeah, it's just fascinating to watch this whole world unfold. So I want to pose one question to you, and then we'll get out of here. You work in the NFL. Check out Rhett every Thursday night. Watch him every Sunday. He's on in our house or in whatever random hotel I'm in on a Thursday. To that point, the turnover in the NFL is rampant as well as a head coach. We just don't see a lot of like in-season drama, right? One head coach in the NFL let go with where we sit now.
Brian Callahan.
11 head coaches in college where we sit now. Why do you think the difference? And like, take recruiting off the table, because I get that part of it, but these coaches aren't being hired until like after Thanksgiving. Oh yeah. Nobody's going to get hired before then. Much like the NFL, like it also moves fast there. in that regard. And they interview guys during the playoffs. Like, what do you think the difference is and why it's so much more volatile in college versus the National Football League?
Well, and I think it really is more of a symptom of where we're at in college athletics. I think there is a sense that you can't fall behind because everyone else can compete now. It's not just, the same 5-6 teams competing for a national title. I mean, like, look, you got Vanderbilt, you've got Indiana, you've got BYU, you've got all these teams that are not traditional powerhouses showing up in the top 10. Like, hey guys, like, you got to deal with us now, And so I think there's a sense that if you are languishing in perceived mediocrity, it ain't going to cut it, and you can't wait. And the more you wait, the more lag you get with donors, the more lag you get with money to coming in and supply your rev share number, to support your rev share number, go over the top with NIL. And I think that was the case at Indiana. Like, that move had to be made because the money wasn't coming in. The move was made, the hire was made, the money started rolling in. And I think you look at that and you're like, yeah, I think you see a reason, you see a cause, you see an explanation for the numbers really happening. I don't know if it's as much a comparison to the NFL, even though the college is obviously quickly becoming more professional than it ever has been. But I think there's just this sense of, man, if we are not moving now, we are falling behind. And if we are falling behind, it's going to be hard to catch up. That's kind of
interesting about that.
The take I get it.
Like, look at Alabama.
Yeah.
That was as late as possible. And they went and got Kalen DeBoer,
True.
And what I'm saying? Like, I just think that, like, two things can be true in this regard. The challenge is, to me, let's just take Florida, LSU, and Penn State and put them in a category. Throw UCLA in there as a Power 5, got a bunch of money, at least perceived to throw $8, $9, $10 million at a coach. Well, you got to throw, so let's call that 50. And then your outgoing staff is going to be, call it 15. Your incoming is going to be 15, 20. Like, there's a lot of money flowing. Okay, those places can handle that. That's just the world, to your point, that we're in, the system of college football that we sit in today. I wonder if firings were made because of the availability of one guy, and that being James Franklin. And I only say that because my mind went back to when Chip Kelly got hired at UCLA. Chip was out. Yeah. And Chip is a man of, to me, tremendous integrity. Chip would not interview anywhere if there was a current head coach. His respect for the game, he's like, I'm not interviewing at UCLA. Jim Moore is the head coach. Call me if there's an opening, but I'm not doing that. Well, Florida was open, so he interviewed at Florida. Yeah. And then Dan Guerrero fired Jim Mora. Yeah. Open up the interview for Chip Kelly. They get Chip Kelly, and away we go. I just say all that of, like, the reasoning behind these firings. Okay, there's a bye week. Okay, I get it. That's why you do it at LSU. The timing kind of nets out well. Fine. But are you trying to get ahead of the race for the biggest free agent out there? Because if not, now you're working the Clark Lees, the Matt, like, just throw every candidate's name that's out there, there. Just throw them all up against the wall, and you're calling all their agents, and then you're all booking a flight to the same Marriott hotel in some city to go do a potential in-person interview. Like, that's just what's happening. Yeah. Like, that's just how it's going to go.
I think it's a fair point that we've seen more. I would say that, like, I don't know that there was a great suspicion that Brian Kelly would be fired at LSU going into the season. I think they thought that this was kind of the year, right? That it would work for him. Same thing with James Franklin. I think that everyone thought this was kind of the year that it was going to happen. And then when there was evidence that it wasn't, they were like, okay, well, look, if it ain't going to happen now, maybe not. It doesn't happen ever. Man, I just come back to supply and demand. Boy, there's just not enough supply, I would say, to meet the blue blood level of these blue blood openings right now in college football. Now, we could be surprised and somebody could work their way into that stratosphere. But I think you're going to have to, the fan bases are going to have to come to grips with, like, Nick Saban's not walking through that door, right? Yeah. And just in Baton Rouge. He's not coming back to LSU. He's not coming back. He's not coming back, right? So, like, you got to be okay with finding the next guy. And sometimes that takes a little time and a little patience and a lot of money.
Amen. Well, they got it rolling at Indiana. Whew, it's a fun one to go watch back. They got it rolling in BYU in Kalani Sitake and that group. And I'm looking
tries to go get him out of BYU.
I would. I think UCLA, that's the first call I'm making. Yeah. And he'll have to make a decision. Like, make it hard on him. I think he's amazing in Westwood. let alone many other places. So yeah, you're right. I mean, he's a winner. He's a good man. He's a great man. Having been around him at a couple of his previous stops. So all right, you're a great man too. We've got a cool stop. Somebody's going to get a win. Minnesota needs one. Michigan State needs one. Well, I'll find you there. Detroit, they get back on the field this weekend.
Let's go.
Jared Goff, he was our episode of The Process. Make sure you're subscribing to our YouTube channel to make sure you're getting all of the updates within this limited series. And the cool part about all these interviews that Rhett and I have done is they're evergreen. So you need something in leadership, go check out Mark Jackson. What is it like to be an elite performer? Go listen to Chris Fowler. What's it like to be Peyton Manning? Like, just listen to that. You'll definitely laugh and you'll learn. It'll be great. And then Dan Lanning, to his point with Jared Goff, it'll make you much more self-aware.
Question your process. Right?
That's
right. That's what this is for. Like, open up a door, try something, unlock something in yourself.
Amen. There it is. Okay. Rhett Lewis, I'm Yogi Roth. Big love to 76. Thanks for hanging out here at the Afterglow. That was Jared Goff. Check it out. We'll be back as the season continues in November. Peace.